Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, everybody, to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. Glad to be here this Wednesday night. Oh, I'm going to make the intro quick, fast, in a hurry. My phone overheated earlier today, the phone I used for the show, and so didn't know we was going to have complications getting it turned on. So I am running a couple minutes behind. Got to have a conversation with our guests before the show, so looking forward to this. But a couple housekeeping things real quick before we jump into getting Mario in the studio and then getting our guest into the studio as well, the Carolina Sports Plus studio. Make sure you guys check us out over at www.110nationsportsradionetwork.com. All the shows get syndicated over there, so make sure you guys check that out while you're over there. If you catch your podcasts on different platforms, say iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, Podchasers, I can go down YouTube, down the list of platforms we are on. There are tabs over there. Just click on those tabs. Say you listen to your podcast on iHeartRadio. Click on the iHeartRadio tab. It will take you to all our podcasts on iHeartRadio. Follow us there. You can catch our shows that way, or you can just continue catching it either live here on Blog Talk Radio. Excuse me. Or just going over www.110nationsportsradionetwork.com. Also, make sure you guys like us on Facebook, the 110 Nation Sports. Give us a like. We're just short of 1,600. Would love to crack that. Also, over on our website, I have been starting to do blogs as well. I'm getting you guys, keep you guys updated on our Race Chat Live and the 110 Nation Sports race pool that we got. Just gave out a $25 gift card this week for the overall points leader after 9 weeks. I did a piece on, DeMar Rosen's kid. We will talk about that tonight's show. And I'll personally be doing a piece about 255 million ways how the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts just screwed the rest of the NFL. So we'll get into I'll get into that. Make sure you guys check that out. Tonight is an all-NBA show. The reason is I'm going to get my co-host in here real quick. We have Jay Spearman joining us. He was our NBA expert for a good part of the time, a good part of the time when we first started over 12 years ago. He came on, would do shows with us, wrote a bunch of phenomenal articles, and he reached out a couple Wednesdays ago after a show and asked everyone would like to have him come back on, and no hesitation. Got back in contact with him, and we set up for tonight to come in, which played out great. Season's over with. We got just past the play-in tournament, and now we are about 2 games deep into the first round. So I couldn't ask for a better time with that. First, let's get Mario in here at the Carolina Sports Plus studio. Mario, how are you doing tonight? And let's go ahead and let them know where they can find Carolina Sports Plus physically, Facebook-wise, website-wise, and let them know when the next drawing to possibly win a pair of LeBrons, Jordans. I think there's another type of shoes you got going on. And me and you're going to talk about that later on as well.
Hey, what's going on? I'm doing great today. You can find Carolina Sports Plus physical location at 1318 Highway 401 Business in Rayford, North Carolina. You can find us on the web at www.carolinasportsplus.com, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram at Carolina Sports Plus. And the raffle, we got another raffle coming. Don't really know the exact date yet, but there's going to be some cool little shoes and Jordans up there. So if you buy a ticket and your number comes out, you'll get you a nice little pair of shoes.
It's the second Friday of the month?
Yeah, second Friday of the month. That's what we're aiming for, yep.
Gotcha. So we got you got a few weeks to get your tickets, get your raffle tickets to be able to be part of that drawing. We had a live drawing last week for last week's winner, so make sure you guys check them out, like them on Facebook, and check out the site. I'm grabbing Jay Spearman. I'm going to throw him in here, the Carolina Sports Plus studio. It's been a long time, Jay. A lot of years since we've actually talked, but a lot of great conversations we had in the day. More at those point of times, it was more the Kobe talks and LeBron talks. I think it was Miami Heat, Cleveland, or LeBron time maybe-ish. But great times, great conversations. Glad to have you back. How have you been? And are you ready to talk some ball?
Yeah, man, I think you kind of aging me a little bit, taking me way back for talking about those Miami Heat days, man. Yeah, man, it's been great, man. I've been blessed. Blessed to be happy for you guys to have me on, man.
Looking forward to tonight. Looking forward to talking some NBA. I messaged Jay last night, and I was like, look, I've watched more basketball in the last 2 weeks than I've watched all season long. And let the truth be told, it's probably the most basketball I've watched since LeBron left Cleveland, and really since Cleveland has been relevant. And so happens I watch more this year, and Cleveland, I'm not going to say is relevant, but has a nice little squad they got together, and I think we'll get through round one, but we'll see where we go from there. I think we could possibly face Miami or Milwaukee if we win, and we'll talk in the fact in here in a little bit that Giannis it is ruled out for game 2. Miami has a chance to steal another one and go up 2-0. And head back home to Miami, how the whole outlook of the playoffs could change with that. But there's two things that I want to get into, and before we jump into talking about the playoffs, one of them has to do with Giannis's injury, and the other one's got to do with load management and how the season winds down, and ultimately how the season is played throughout the year as well. The CBA that they agreed upon for the 2023 season, the players have to play in 65 games in order to win the MVP and other awards. I think that would have eliminated a lot of players this year. And I'm definitely looking to get your guys' opinion on, one, if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but also, will it matter? Is the bonus that they get for being MVP or some of these other awards, is it worth it to them versus the ultimate prize and being healthy and rested when it comes to getting to the playoffs and potentially the NBA Finals? I'll start with you, Mario. We're going to go around. Your thoughts on the CBA? Do you like that the NBA is forcing these players, if they want to win these awards, to play 65 games? Do you think it's going to change anything? Do you think it matters enough to the players that those awards versus the potential of a championship run?
Well, so in my opinion, it really comes down to the fans and seeing them special players, when they pay for the tickets. I think that's where the league is more focused on, but as far as the playoffs and the playoff run, you can get hurt at any given time, as you can see during this playoff. But it's a good idea. It's a good mix up. You're gonna see a lot of people who wasn't in the running for special awards be in the running just because they played the amount of needed games. But as far as the superstars, they're still gonna make their own little way around it and try to still get their rest days in on the days that they don't feel like playing as far as load management. But I guess we'll see. You know.
Jay, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, you know what? This is really good for the NBA, man. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and it kind of takes it back to like the early '90s, like style of basketball. You remember during that time? I ain't trying to give away nobody's age, but you know, I was a young pup during that time, so I didn't get a chance to really enjoy the Bad Boy Pistons in the first part of the Bulls dynasty. But the MVP actually meant something. Of course, everybody had a bit of voter fatigue when it came to Jordan winning it, but years and years and years. And hence, we had Charles Barkley taking it over in 90 or 91. And then, you know, later on in the 90s, you got Karl Malone taking it, Shaq taking it, so on and so forth. But a lot of that had to not only do with the popularity of the player, but the longevity of the actual player's season. So you notice those guys, these were guys playing 65 games, 75 games, so on and so forth, just for the bragging rights alone, especially during an era to where, you know, Chicago was a dynasty. You knew you wasn't going to beat them. The next best thing was those individual awards. So the fact that you were able to make a claim to MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, whatever the case may be, also tied into your longevity. I think with this new CBA rule, that kind of puts us back into that echelon and swing of doing things, especially with the type of talent that we have in today's NBA. You're talking about a season to where we've had multiple 70-point games, multiple 50-point games. The average score of every NBA game has went up significantly, and then you have new talent coming into the league. This sets the tone for them as well. Your Cade Cunningham, your Victor Wembanyama, your Jaden Ivey. I'm talking Detroit Pistons stuff. But it all boils down to being able to actually take that talent and show them that, hey, not only do you have to be good at the game of basketball, but you have to remain as healthy as possible. And I think that's where we're going to be able to get rid of this low management aspect. It's something that I just always hated.
I despise the whole load management. Warren, and this is speaking of a non-basketball athlete, and this is speaking of what athlete I was. I was very young, so I obviously cannot speak in an actual body of an NBA player and what the toll throughout the year is. All we know is they only got to actually play 82 games. I say only 82, but, I mean, essentially you got 82 days of work. Now, obviously, you got practice and you got scrimmages and everything else, and to what extent and what level those go, that's, you know, in behind closed doors. I mean, not that nobody can't sit there and watch it, but we don't. We just know that there's only 82 days that you actually got to put your all in plus your playoffs. So for me, I have an issue that you get paid millions on top of millions of dollars to play in the NBA, not counting your endorsements and awards and everything else you got going on. You shouldn't have an issue of sucking it up if you got a back-to-back or a 2 out of 3 night, you know, stretch. You get paid. This is what you signed up for. You knew what you were potentially going to have to do, making millions of dollars. Someone had brought up, let's reduce the season, which I'm a fan of as well. Let's take it from 82 to, let's say, 62. I'm just throwing a random number out there. You're eliminating 20 games now. So 60 games become a little bit more important. I think that's one of the things we love about the NFL. There's only 17 games. Every game matters. Yes, at the end of the season, the NBA, every game matters, but let's be honest, game 20 to most of these players don't matter. If they lose or win, it's not going to potentially make or break their season. Now, if you come down to a tie and you set everybody in game 20, yes, it could come back to bite you, but nobody's looking at that big of a picture. They're looking at there's 82 games. We got plenty of time. Odds are if we finish 500, even slightly above, we're probably going to make the playoffs or play in. So we really don't have to be that concerned. I mean, well, let's look at Golden State and how they hardly won any road games. Only beat, one team above 500 this entire season. Didn't have Wiggins for quarter or more of the season. Steph was out for for a good stretch there. They made the playoffs. And something else we'll get into is Draymond Green. That potentially now could cost them their playoff run. Not that I'm saying that necessarily they would beat Sacramento, but there's a much better chance with Draymond Green on the court versus not on the court. So they kind of proved that you kind of can coast through, and as long as you have a little bit above 500 record, you're good. So I don't have a problem with them reducing the season. What's going to intrigue me for next season is to see what players the MVP award does matter. What players that because now there's a minimum. So those that don't make it, outside of those that actually have a serious injury, those that don't play enough games, then obviously we know that the MVP does not matter to them. There's no value to them to it. So it will be interesting to me to see which ones it does matter to. Do I think it's going to change? I think I agree with you, Mario. I think that we're going to see ways of players to work around everything to kind of show us that there's still a loophole in the system somewhere. I'm sure somebody's going to find something, and we're going to see players that are going to be in running for awards and didn't maybe make that threshold or, got some kind of waiver or whatever the case may be. I just see there being a loophole somewhere. We just ain't seen it yet. The other topic, and I feel it needs to be sat down and be part of the CBA, and I think it needs to be part of the CBA next year, is the way Giannis got hurt. And I think I've been yelling from the Raptors even back since the day Jay was on the show with us and part of this, what Kevin Love did. And I'm not going to say what Kevin Love did was a dirty play. It's legal. I have never been a fan of it. I have never been a fan of somebody who's going like Giannis was to the rim, a defensive player be able to slide in front of you just because they're out of the circle. As long as they're standing there, now you draw a charge, and we're seeing people get hurt. I have never liked that. There's no defensive – that's not a defensive move. At least make them have their hands up, do something defensively. But to say, oh, this guy is getting ready to go dunk the ball, I'm going to slide in front of him, and if I can not move just for a second before he gets there, I'm going to draw a charge on him, even though he was dead to the rights to the rim. I hate that. I think it's the stupidest. I'm glad the other stupidest rule was the whole three-pointers kicking their leg out and catching, and I'm glad they got rid of all that. Not letting them intentionally jump into people, kick their leg out, and everything else. This rule needs to be eliminated. The defenders being able to do this needs to be eliminated. Now it's causing serious injuries. Before it was just an annoyance to me. Now it's actually we're seeing more and more injuries. Jay, your thoughts? Am I overreaching my step here with this? Am I too far-fetched? You leaning this way now? Was you leaning that way before, or should it just stay as is?
You know what, CJ? Like, I don't want to say that you're reaching. I'm not going to say that much, but I will say I like the block. I like those type of players who are going to, put themselves in the middle of potentially like getting that last minute defensive call. I don't think that what Kevin Love did on that play was necessarily dirty. Now, I've watched guys do that outside the box and get there a split second too late, and 9 times out of 10 you see something like that, you see a guy like Giannis clearly just jumping over him. You get put on a poster. That's the sacrifice that you make. But I don't think what he did in that particular play was malicious or anything like that. I think honestly, like Kevin was just trying to go for like he was doing what you're taught to do in basketball. It looks pretty fundamental to me. I'm one of those guys, man, to where it's like I stand by the physicality of the game. I don't think it needs to get brutal. Like we saw that play that happened with Giannis and it messed up the lower back. I don't think it needs to go like that far. Maybe, I don't know. I say possibly like having the referees kind of like paying just a little bit more close attention to like plays like that. Which I think the refs did a really good job of calling that play down the middle, like that Miami-Milwaukee game. I don't really see like any issue with it though, man.
Mario, your thoughts?
I'm leaning to more. I like the physicality of the game as well. You know, and you can definitely tell that there's a difference in how referees call a game in regular season and playoffs. But on the other hand, the league would definitely look into it just because when you have stars out, in the playoffs, it's definitely different than having the stars out during the regular season because now it's money time, and to see a player get hurt off of a play like that, makes you want to think about, what can we do to change it. But I like the physicality that the refs are letting the players play with, but with stars being out in the playoffs really does mess up the bottom line. But, it was kind of a bad situation, but I like the physicality of it. But I just don't like, when I'm in the air and then somebody just comes and meets me there while I'm already there, that's kind of iffy.
And just to piggyback off of that one. Go ahead, CJ.
No,
hey, just to piggyback off of that one, I 100% agree with Mario on that. If you got a guy who's clearly in the air, he has the lane, he has to ride away. Yeah, you're trying to get under him or something like that. That's a dirty play. That gives me Zaza Pachulia style vibes, Grayson Allen style vibes. Draymond Green is kind of notorious for doing stuff along those lines. So I think it's up to the refs to kind of pay attention to players who are committing those type of fouls and act accordingly, as opposed to just shutting down and trying to change the rules entirely.
We had a star. We had a shining star in the play-in tournament, and the star didn't even play a minute on the basketball court. And I'm speaking of DeMar Rosen's daughter, De'Aaron, I think is her name, if I remember correctly. She was the young lady that decided that every time the Raptors went to the free throw line, she would scream like somebody was stealing her, killing her, whatever the case may be. Causing, well, maybe coincidentally, but the Raptors went 50%. They missed 18 shots from the free throw line. Following the game, I think they shot something like 82% or whatever, if I remember correctly. And this was allowed throughout the game. I'm going to go with you first, Jay. Your thoughts on this? Your thoughts on what she did? Should it be allowed? What's your overall thoughts on this?
Let me tell you something, CJ. If God ever blesses me with a daughter, I ever have a daughter and she don't ride for me the way that DeMar DeRozan's daughter ride for her, I don't want her. Pretty simple, man. She did what she was supposed to do. You can't get mad at that girl for wanting to root for her daddy, man. Let her have. Now, here's what upset me about that. You have these fans, and I understand it, man. This is high-octane basketball. We obviously, got a playoff spot, on the line. You don't sit there and start making life threats to a little girl. That's just something that you don't do. And I think, shame on those fans who are making those. I don't know if either one of you guys were aware of that part, but shame on those fans who are out there making life-threatening threats to this little girl who's just doing something simple as rooting for her daddy. Let her play. I think that's an excellent display of what basketball really is, man. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Mario.
No, to be honest, I don't have a problem with it either. You got to make your free throws. It's gonna be loud anywhere you go, especially during a play-in tournament. And just gotta hit your free throws. To me, it wasn't a big deal.
All right. I didn't think this was going to go this way. Did y'all hear the girl? Did y'all hear the video? Did you hear the screeching noise?
Oh yeah, I heard it. Yeah,
okay. I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm sitting that level, so it wasn't very high, so I guarantee those seats were a few $100s each, and I just paid $20 for a beer. $10 for a hot dog, probably $8 for a pretzel. Well, that's probably on the lower end at this point of where they were at and playoff time. And I had someone sitting directly behind me screaming like that. It would be all I could do not to throat punch him. No, this should not be a thing. at all, because now you're going to have a bunch of kids and people setting up a bunch of kids or obnoxious people doing those kind of screams. At what level, to what extent is enough? No, I'm not a fan of it. And it is more so from, and it's not so much from the basketball point of view. It's more of, imagine the fans that had to sit next to that, especially it being in Toronto and it being Raptor fans. Like, I know it shouldn't make a difference, but if you were at a Detroit game and there was one of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell was screaming, you were sitting right next to her. And every time that one of the Pistons went up to shoot a free throw, you had to hear that. You would not be a happy person, especially if it was a playoff game and you paid more money to sit there and as close as you were. You wouldn't. And that's more of where I have an issue with it, is more from, because it's loud, and these basketball players have heard everything, and if not, you watch a LeBron game, he'll point out a fan quick, fast, in a hurry does something he doesn't like with and get them kicked out. So I know they hear it all, and we saw the whole Draymond Green and the whole Sacramento fans flip. They hear it all. So to me, it's not so much the basketball, because they're going to, for the most part, other than what sounds like a little kid being stolen, might have been distracting to the Toronto players. There might have just been coincidence. But I'm more so focused on the fans, because I would have not sat through a game like that and not probably flip my lid, especially if I did have a few drinks in me. Like, somebody's got to come get this fucking kid. Whoops, I did not mean to say that. Somebody needs to get this freaking kid. I've done so good. I ain't cussing so long. For the fact we are on iHeartRadio and Spotify and everything else. So I try my hardest not to let any words slip on here, but I can't believe that y'all, I don't know, could y'all imagine sitting next to that? Could you honestly, now that I kind of did from that, not the basketball player perspective, but from a fan. Now, do you guys feel the same way that your first answer was?
Yeah, I do. They're ringing cowbells.
Wow, I know.
They're doing all types of stuff.
Let me say something. Let me say something real quick, CJ. So you touched on like Piston games. I go to about like 3 or 4 Piston games like a year, and the most interactive games I ever go to is typically Detroit versus Toronto. The reason why is because Detroit team suck and we're so close to Toronto that Toronto fans feel like coming to LCA, so coming to Detroit is almost like a home game to them. And I'm talking Canadian flags everywhere, Vince Carter jerseys, you name it, whatever the case may be, the loudest, most obnoxious fans that you could ever imagine. Now imagine that by the thousands. Now, you think that little girl screaming is bad? Imagine about 10,000 grown men doing that at the top of their lungs. I experienced that, and it's good with me. In fact, it actually makes the game a lot more lively, especially when the Pistons are getting blown out by 20, like we've been getting blown out this entire season. Like, it makes you actually want to enjoy the game because you see that other people are enjoying it. I stand by it, man.
But to me, it's a little bit different. It's different from hearing a grown man scream and what sounds like somebody's hurting or stealing a little kid. Like, that had to be distracting. That's more so. I don't care. To me, there should be some kind of. There's got to be some kind of, like, you can't have little kids. I mean, literally at times sound like somebody was stealing her. Like, that's just a little bit different to me versus grown men screaming or everything else. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily against it, but I especially from the player point of view, it's just being right next to a little kid screaming that way. Sound like she's being kidnapped. Like I'm doing something next to her, or doing something to her, and everybody looking. And I don't know. It just anyway. We only got about 20 more minutes because I know you got to get out here about 10 till. And we're never going to get through all these topics. I went through the roster today or the agenda today, and they're like, "You're thinking you're going to get that done in an hour?" I'm a fan of. You tell Mario, I'm horrible at getting agendas done, but I'm a fan of having too much and run out of time versus not having enough and having dead air time. I'm gonna start with you, Mario. Biggest disappointments and biggest surprise teams to finish the season. Maybe teams that played better or made the playoffs, teams that didn't make the playoffs, teams that you thought were going to be number one and just barely made it playoffs, whatever the circumstance. Who was your biggest surprise team to finish up the regular season, and who was your biggest disappointment team?
I think the biggest surprising team to me is definitely Sacramento, because them boys looking good. The disappointment, it definitely got to fall on the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at with with all that one.
Jay, you.
So I wanted to say Sacramento, but honestly, mid-season, I wasn't surprised. De'Aaron Fox has been underrated since he's been drafted. Malik Monk is having an incredible season so far. Domantas Sabonis is having a incredible season. So he got stumped out, but those guys are not surprised me anymore. You got stumped out when you saw it, but honestly, most surprising team for me, the post Kevin Durant Brooklyn Nets. I did not think that they were going to bounce back the way that they did. I thought it was over for them. I thought they were going to tank, be a lot of repair. They're pooping. They're getting whooped by Philly in the playoffs as they should, but they hoop. Mikal Bridges hoop. Cam Johnson hoop.
Yeah.
Most disappointing team, I got to agree with Mario on this. It got to be Dallas. I talked so much smack to everybody, all my guys at work, anybody who would listen to me. When they made that trade for Kyrie, I'm sitting there saying this is the best backcourt in the NBA, hands down. And they did absolutely nothing with it. And that upsets me because I'm a Luka fan as well. So we'll see what next year looks like, but those are my two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Best Actor of the Year award goes to Sabonis. I'm not going to say he didn't get hurt, but I feel that it was over-dramatized to quite an extent, and I think their medical report was just a play on of all that to keep the potential suspension coming and everything. I think he'll end up being fine being back here playing on the court. Biggest surprise for me, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Honestly, I didn't see them finishing fourth. I didn't see this group coming together as quick as they did. We get Donovan Mitchell, which we knew he was a great player, but to see how quickly they came together, came as a team, and just how well everybody matched together. I see them getting through the first round. I think we'll end up taking care of New York. But next round, either Milwaukee or Miami, both of them will be a tough opponents. Who would have thought that things would happen this way and we potentially could play Miami? I'd rather play Miami than Milwaukee, obviously, especially with a healthy Giannis. So I'm kind of hoping that Miami takes care of business, even though Miami, with their 7 undrafted players, how phenomenal is that? We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But they are a pretty scary team. But with Hero being out, obviously that changes things as well. With his injury, a lot of injuries in the beginning. The team of disappointing I had as disappointment as well was Dallas. But since everybody picked Dallas, I'm going to just throw one out there and go with another one, and that is San Antonio. This is the worst I think I've ever seen them play. I've never seen a Popovich team to this extent, and I know a lot of it towards the end was just trying to get that number 1 pick and improving the lottery pick. But being a guy that has grown up, seeing the days of David Robinson, and then seeing the Twin Towers and Ginobili and Parker and everybody and Danny Green being on the team, and we can go through all the names that San Antonio's had. It seemed like and Kawhi and everything, it just seems like they would just keep reloading and keep reloading and keep reloading. And we finally got to a point that they didn't have anybody to reload with, and everybody went everywhere. And it just a disappointment, and more so that you for so many years you saw them in the playoffs and be a team that was a contender, and now to see them be at the very bottom and with 22 wins, I just never thought I would see a day like that, and it's disappointing to me. Let's jump into some of these games real quick, their series real quick. Round 1, okay, we talked about Giannis, Miami. They took game 1. Giannis will be out for game 2. Miami will be without Hero, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Will be an interesting game. Will be interesting to see if Miami can go into Milwaukee and steal 2 of them and have it potentially to sweep. Who would have thought that we could even fathom the conversation of a possible sweep of Milwaukee by Miami. But let's be realistic, no Giannis, and then you carry that momentum back to Miami, Game 3 and Game 4. You just like there's an any given Sunday, there's that possibility. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but there's just that possibility. Start with you, Jay. Is Milwaukee done? Does Milwaukee have a chance?
No.
What do you like so far about this series? What does Milwaukee need to do, obviously, other than get Giannis back on the court?
Yeah, my apologies for jumping right in front of the question, but that was almost a no-brainer, man.
Oh, you're good.
They're not done. This team is this. You're talking about a team that they've done parts of this season without Giannis, parts of this season without Chris Middleton, and they've been just fine.
Mm-hmm.
You got one of the most underrated players in the league in Drew Holiday, one of the most underrated defenders in Drew Holiday. You got Brook Lopez, who's having some of the best basketball in his career. People forget that dude is old.
Yep.
And he's hooping, man. You got a strong core in Milwaukee. I can't necessarily see them. I can't see them getting a gentleman's sweep out of this, but I do see them taking this in at least 6.
Mario.
No, I definitely agree with Jay. Just because they're battle tested, they've been playing without Giannis, and they definitely got a good core of people and veterans who know how to lead and know how to carry themselves. So I definitely feel like it's definitely going to be a battle, but they're battle tested, and they'll get Giannis back, but it's still going to be a good series.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Miami come out and win this game, and if so, I think the cockiness will get the best of them, and I think that the Milwaukee Bucks would come back and go into Miami and smack them back in their mouths and let them know that, don't get too cocky for your own good. I think as long as this injury doesn't linger out, if this is just a 1 game, even potentially 2 game situation, I think there's a really good chance that Milwaukee will turn this series around and will end up winning. I would be shocked if Miami, as much as I would rather play Miami than the Milwaukee Bucks, especially by that point Giannis would be back. I think Milwaukee will turn this around. Just a update real quick. Memphis is up over the Lakers 59-44 at the half. 7 undrafted players on Miami, though. That is, to me, very impressive that they have been able to develop and draft. It kind of almost like, to me, is almost like Moneyball in the Oakland Athletics. You take a bunch of, no-name players, undrafted players, and put a roster together and a bunch of names that nobody knew. And now you not only are you're making the playoffs, and not only are you building the chemistry, but you're developing these players, and you're going to have these players for a while because some of these players will stick around just for the loyalty, just for the fact that, look, Miami gave me my opportunity. Unless Miami tries to lowball the crap out of them, they're going to stay there. They're going to stick with the team that gave them the opportunity when nobody else did. And you got a bunch of players on a rookie contracts, and it's just going to be good for Miami for the next few years. So very impressive what Miami has done with their scouting and the team they put together. Next one is Golden State, down 2 games now, which is the first time that Steph Curry has trailed 2 games to none in a playoff series. But Golden State has found themselves in a hole. Draymond Green gets ejected, and 7 minutes left in the game, in a close game, for stomping on Sabonis, and then is going to be suspended for Game 3, and it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to kind of jump into the Draymond Green thing for a second, and then, of course, talk about Sacramento and Golden State. We know what we're going to get out of Draymond Green. We're going to get a guy that's going to push the rules as far as he can. We know that he's going to be controversial at times. He's going to be the Patrick Beverley or the Dennis Rodman. There's players out there that are that's what they do. And Draymond Green, junkyard dog kind of player. You hate him if you don't have him. You love him if you have him. Now, defensively, he plays defense. He's a good passer. Doesn't light up the board, but he plays his role. He knows his place. And he don't need to score a lot when you got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. This whole suspension thing, believe it or not, I kind of agree with what I've heard earlier today. I don't necessarily feel that it's warranted a suspension. To the bottom line is Sabonis grabbed him and wasn't letting him go. And, yes, Draymond Green should have stepped on him, and I don't necessarily feel that, a foul. I'm not going to say that maybe there shouldn't have been a foul. I also know the referee teed up Sabonis, and, it was a play off of what happened. But I also believe Sabonis also was over dramatic with it. I don't feel that – wasn't like Draymond ran up, jumped as high he could, and stomped down on him. He just got his leg from the arm lock and then stepped on him and kind of went on. I don't feel that it was that malicious that it warranted everything that happened. You threw him out the game, so you threw him out the game. I'm not going to say that I necessarily hate that call, but you done threw him out of a game that mattered, so why are we suspending him for a whole game when it was a kind of a tick-for-tack situation? It wasn't like like I said, it wasn't like he just ran up and stomped on him. It wasn't like they threw punches. He stepped on him after his leg being held as they were moving forward. So it was going to be evident that he was probably going to step on him one way or another anyway, just because of the motion they were going. But that being said, and I'm going to let Mario jump in and then Jay give your thoughts. I think there's a possibility we don't see Golden State get through this round. They've only beat one team all year above 500 on a road game. They have not been good on the road at all. And now you done lost home court. You're not lost home court, but you're down 2-0. All Sacramento's got to do is go in there and steal one at this point. And now you're really in a pinch because now Golden State's got to win 2 games in Sacramento to take this at this point. Well, no, technically they got to take one and still got 3 games at home. So they still got to steal. I don't know if they're going to steal one and go. This might be done once they go back to Sacramento and finish this up. Mario, your thoughts on the Draymond thing, and do you see Golden State turn it around, or does Sacramento find themselves going into the next round?
To me, with the Draymond Green, I think it more came down to the after effect. After stomping, getting the crowd riled up, and with the commissioner being there, and you can see the fans were irritated. You can see Draymond Green calling fans out their name, on live TV. So I kind of felt it kind of like leaned more that way. Draymond's gonna be Draymond. Of course, if he wanted to grab my foot, I want to stomp on him. It all comes back to the beginning. But I say the after effect and his past history really got him that one game. As far as Golden State winning, Draymond Green is very important to their everything that they do in Golden State, as far as their offense, even their defense, the rebounding, the assists. So he's definitely going to play a factor. Him not being there for next game. Do I see him getting swept? It's a possibility, but I think Golden State is going to come back when they're at home and really try to dig deep. And if they can win Game 3 without Draymond, they got a chance. But if they lose Game 3, it's definitely over. But it's definitely an entertaining series. But I think Draymond Green got himself suspended after the fact. I think if he would just sit down on the bench after he then stepped on him and sat down and went through, wouldn't have did the extra, I think he wouldn't have got suspended. The extra, getting the crowd riled up, calling fans out the name, the commissioner there, I think that definitely played a big factor in it.
Jay.
Yeah, you know what? I actually agree with Mario on this one. I think the whole episode is what caused the suspension. It's Draymond Green. It's like, we know what Draymond Green is going to do. His record precedes him, and his reputation precedes him, and all these things. I don't think that takes Golden State not winning this series. I still got Golden State in 6. Here's why. This series right now is a full illustration of what Golden State's season has been. You remember they get smoked out on the road, and then they come home, and they're a whole different team. And we have to remember, they're about as healthy as they're going to get. You got a healthy Steph. You got a healthy Clay. You got a physically healthy, even though not mentally healthy, Andrew Wiggins. GP is coming along. They can get a game without Draymond. I mean, I'm not trying to sit there and say that Draymond is useless and he doesn't have a purpose. Obviously, he does. But I think that this team can survive just fine without him. You put a Jonathan Kuminga in his place. You put a Wiggins on their best defender. Well, and that I don't even want to say that. Let me take that part back because De'Aaron Fox has been cooking Andrew Wiggins. But you put a Jonathan Kuminga in that place. You let Andrew Wiggins do some facilitation. You let Jordan Poole do some facilitation. You have a team that can realistically still make it all the way back to the Western Conference Finals, possibly, and I say this with an asterisk, possibly finals, depending on how healthy that core three being Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Andrew Wiggins get. I know that's going to be a hot topic, and I'm probably going to get a lot of slack on that. People going to be in my DMs. But I think Andrew Wiggins is more important to this team than Draymond Green is.
Oh, I agree. I know you got to get out of here. I want to get one more thought out of you before we get you out of here. Phoenix tied up the series. No Paul George. KD and the Suns did lose game 1. They came back game 2. Your thoughts? Is KD the missing piece? Does Chris Paul have enough in the tank at his age, knowing we're about to the end of CP3? Is Booker ready to step into that Robin role and give KD what he needs? What do you think, Phoenix? As soon as they picked him up, I went ahead and put $10 in the sports book just to play the sports book thing. It wasn't necessary. Who I thought was going to win, I just thought that was now a favorable thing. But give me your thoughts on that before you get out of here.
Man, first of all, I got a couple extra minutes, so we're good. But let me tell you this.
Okay.
I'm so confident in Phoenix making it to the NBA Finals. I've been in arguments with this all weekend. I have a lot of real estate in Phoenix. I have a lot of real estate in Phoenix. Excuse my French. Hell yeah to everything that you add. KD is the missing piece for this team. This is all that this team needed was a go-to scorer in the fourth. As much as I love Devin Booker, he's not consistently ready yet, but he will be. Chris Paul, this is the easiest championship he'll ever be able to win. You've got a simple format right here. You put it in KD's hands, you get about the way. Monty Williams' offense runs beautifully and is perfectly designed for a guy like KD. Fun little fact. So the guy who just bought Phoenix Suns, Matt Ishbia, used to work for the guy at UWM. I know all about his schemes. I know all about how he sees a winning organization, and he's legitimately taken everything. And I was there for 2 years. He's legitimately taken everything that he did at UWM and incorporated it all to the Phoenix Suns. And you can even see it playing out now. That level of accountability. Kevin Durant got a haircut, y'all. I don't know if anybody saw that, but
yeah,
that level of accountability that these guys are having now. That sheer leadership, allowing Kevin Durant to kind of take the reins on the team. That takes a lot of cojones from a guy like Chris Paul, who's been the go-to veteran on this team, to step back and let this man play first fiddle on a team that he hasn't even been at for all of 3 months. If you ride this wave the right way, you can ride this all the way to the NBA Finals. If they do not win a championship this year, you have nothing but Phoenix to blame. And I don't think they want to do that right now. I see them making it all the way there.
Mario.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I kind of agree with Jay. The only issue that I have with Phoenix is they have to play a lot of minutes as far as Chris Paul, Booker, and KD. Will it eventually catch up with them? I don't know. Last night they won. They had some big players step up. Craig hit a lot of threes in that corner, so hopefully he can do that again. But my only issue is
didn't Chris Paul have to play like 38 minutes, Mario?
Yeah, they're both averaging 38, 40, 43. You know, it will definitely catch up with them. You know, be talking to the next series and series after that. You know, that's the only issue I have. Who's going to come off the bench and score? You know, they haven't played Payne. They haven't played Payne last game, so I'm kind of wondering what's going on with that. You know, but as far as the Phoenix Suns, they have an awesome team. I think the problem is minutes and being deep enough. But we'll see.
And I mean, that's kind of where T.J. Warren and Terrence Ross comes to play. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you good?
Okay, no, what I was saying was that's where T.J. Warren and Terrence Ross comes into play. You got a little bit of depth. No, Cam Payne is not going to carry you into a game unless he just has a Matthew Dellavedova out-of-body experience to where he just goes berserk and something like that happens. But that's one in a million here. Now, you saw how I used the Deli thing for you, CJ. But when you got like a team like this, you almost don't need nearly as – this is just my opinion – you don't need nearly as much depth as you think. You have one of the most efficient scorers in NBA history. You have a man who demands a walking double-double every time he passes half court. Somebody going to be open.
Yeah.
Somebody going to be open. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Devin Booker. You get the ball in the hands, you let them boys operate.
I agree. Like I said, once they made that trade, I went ahead and put a $10 bet. I think that was $60 paid out. Still trying to learn this whole sports book thing. I have a FanDuel account and a DraftKings account. Every once in a blue moon, I play it. I'm more focused on the stock market all day long and forget most of the days I have money on both my sport books account and they just don't think about it. I think it's important to KD to win this. Not only this series, but the championship period, because everybody wants to throw that asterisk. And I hate everybody uses that word asterisk, but they throw that asterisk out there, joining a super team, essentially a super team, the Golden State Warriors, who would, basically had a dynasty run there. And they'd won a championship before and won a championship after he left. So to what validation or to what extent did KD really have, even though we know that he had a big part to do with that and was an MVP? A lot of people want to throw that in, just like, you have the Jordan and the LeBron haters in the conversations and who's the GOAT. You have the same conversations when you talk about Kevin Durant. So I think this is important. I think that Chris Paul, you're looking at this maybe next year and that's it. This is your run. Like this, I agree with Jay. This is probably the best chance they've had. But I think we're getting to the point for Chris Paul anyway. This is getting to be the last chance. There's not too many more miles left on those tires. And so I think a championship and maybe coming off the bench role next year is more of a possibility than a whole nother run at it. But if they do lose, I would like to see if he would strongly consider, look, we didn't get KD until the draft or the trade deadline, let's go ahead and let's, we didn't get a whole season. Let me do this one more year. Now we got the chemistry. Now let's get the pieces we need to fill. Now we see where our weaknesses are. Now we can fix those holes, and I'm gonna give you guys one more year. I can see that being a strong possibility if they don't finish it off. But I think it's very important to both of them for different reasons. Chris Paul finally getting that championship, knowing this is it. And next year or two, and part of their best run, KD to validate his championships and his MVPs by going to another team that was not going to win the championship without him, and now won a championship. Booker, I think with KD, I think anybody could probably be a good Robin with KD. KD's a phenomenal player. I will never take anything away from KD. I think there's enough there, and Booker's had to do so much before they had KD and without when they are without Chris Paul that I think there's enough experience and enough of a chemistry that it's there. I think Clippers came out. I think Phoenix went into this game. No Paul George. We got this. I think Clippers came in knowing that they had to punch them in the mouth and get game one under their belt in hopes that, if we lose game two, we're going home. Maybe we can steal one or two at home, and and then all we gotta do is win another game. But I agree with both you guys. Real quick before we get off, because she said we got 90 seconds. Memphis Lakers. Obviously, opinions might change with them down by 20 points, but Ja hurt. Lakers looked impressive. Are we going to see the Lakers in round two, Jay?
Yeah, Lakers in 6, easy.
You concur there, Mario?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well. So, Jay, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm glad to have you back. It's just like old times. It just felt like you was never gone. So it's been phenomenal. Anytime you want to come back on, and we either do an all-NBA show or a half NBA show, or once the basketball season's over with, if you want to talk about anything else, all you got to do is reach out to me anytime. As a matter of fact, shoot me your number in Messenger, and then I'll shoot you back a text so you got my personal number. But it's glad to have you back. I'm looking forward to doing some more things with you. We'll definitely talk about the marketing and all that other stuff as well. But glad to have you back.
Most definitely.
Okay. Hey, appreciate it, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Mario, as always, thank you for joining me. Phenomenal time. This was probably the most topic-packed, smooth-running, very talkative show. I mean, not that we don't talk a lot, but having a third person in and the flow of everything was phenomenal tonight. So that was the only part that concerned me, is when you throw someone in that's not used to us, or, especially with us not sitting in front of each other, the not over talking and all that stuff. And I felt that it went phenomenal. There was 2 times that Jay said something early on, but I stopped because I was going to change subjects anyway. So it was great that he finished his points, and so that it was all very smooth. I felt that we ran through no issues and no overlapping and none of that. So phenomenal time, phenomenal show. Let them know where they can find you, location, Facebook, websites, as we get wrapped up here in the Carolina Sports Plus studio.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. First off, big shout-out to Angel Munoz and Burgess Boxing. His next fight is May 20th. He's our sponsor.
He's what,
boxer.
2-0?
You can catch. Yeah, he's 2-0, moving to 3-0. His next fight is May 20th in Charlotte. So that's going to be a big. Yeah, it's going to be a big thing. So, but you can catch us on Carolina Sports Plus on Instagram and Facebook. Our store location is 1318 Highway 401 Business in Rayford, and you can catch us online at carolinasportsplus.com.
Don't forget, give us a like, just a few likes short of the 1,600 mark over at the 110 Nation Sports on Facebook. I just started our Instagram page or Instagram account, whatever, for the 110 Nation Sports. You guys can go over there. Follow us as well as over there. I'm still working on how to link everything together, so there's nothing on there. But I did activate an account today, so I can link everything together. Don't forget, you guys can go to www.110nationsportsradionetwork.com for all our shows, show schedules, marketing partners, and blogs. As I have done a couple over there, and I think we might be having some more coming on and doing some blogs as well. So make sure you guys check that out. Also at the bottom, there are tabs. There's iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, Podchaser, Podcast Addicts, YouTube. You pretty much name it, all the popular and most used platforms where you can catch podcasts. It is there. You can just click on it, follow us over there. That way, when our new podcast or the next podcast come out, you guys are notified. You guys can catch them, or you guys can just go over to www.the110nationsportsradionetwork.com, and all the shows are there already for you. However you want to catch it. I bounce all over the place. Sometimes I catch them on iHeartRadio. Sometimes I catch it on Blog Talk Radio, and sometimes I just use the site and catch the shows as well. Listening to the guys. Speaking of the guys, don't forget Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Race Chat Live with Chris, Craig, Taz, and Miss Lee. Phenomenal show, great time, good laughs. If you're interested in having your show, and you want to have it on our network and get all that exposure, or if you already have a show and you want to syndicate it on our network to help expand your exposure and help us to put shows on different dates, just contact me, Mr. CJSports@gmail.com. I'd love to have an opportunity to talk to you and see about putting your show on our network and on our platforms. Now that we're actually doing blogs on the website, the goal is eventually we will open up the other domain, make it public. We own www.the110nationsports.com and the sportsradionetwork.com for the next 10 years. We have those locked in, and I will every year continue to extend that so they will permanently be ours. Being shorthanded, it stretched us out very thin trying to do shows and blogs, so we just focus on the radio side. I just started, once I noticed that I can do blogs on this site, the radio network just designated for the shows. I started doing it there. Once we build up a network of shows, I will pull away and start sending the blogs over to our other site that will be an actual blog site. But for now, as we continue to grow, if you're interested in writing for us and do blogs as well, hit me at mrcjsports@gmail.com. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm glad to all the new listeners and all those checking the site. I'm learning all this new analytical stuff and how to monitor everything. And every week and every day we're continuously growing. So I want to thank all the new listeners. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed doing the show. Phenomenal time. Love to be able to sit here and do this again real soon. But Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, Race Chat Live. Chris, Craig, Taz, Miss Lee, and then Mario and myself will be back next Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. We will be doing pre-draft show. We will be talking about who we think the top 10 picks are going to be, what his Carolina Panthers need, what my Cleveland Browns need, and get you guys ready for the draft. And then the following show, the following week, we will be recapping the draft, first round, our teams, and moving forward. So until next time.